I hope you're as excited about this session because I genuinely felt the need that we needed to have a conversation around this topic, that's content first design, because there were lesser things talked about it in terms of the design process or the product life cycle. So years back when I had just started my design career, this conversation happened in one of the Q&A sessions during a design talk. And I was then aspiring to, at some point, move into a role of a UX writer, because when I saw that, it felt something that I would fit right into. But then someone mentioned that there is no scope for this role, there is no future, and opportunities were very limited. And I've noticed that even now in the job market and generally, at least in India, I've noticed that the role of a UX writer per se, I've never noticed. There are, of course, a lot of openings for UX designers and UX researchers or UI designers, or what we call product designer. But a focus on UX content, and these conversations I noticed were very less. And I felt as designers who actually also often write the UX copy for these screens that we design, there was no process or no strategy in place. The question was, who actually does this? Just a moment while I flip through the slides. Yeah. So, what exactly is the content strategy? That you have as a design team or as a product, company. So we often focus on user experience and the design aesthetics being centric to the user. But do we really talk about what should be in those screens in terms of the call to action buttons or the content in terms of when I mention content, I do not mean the actual blog kind of content, but I mean anything that communicates to the user. So this is very, very critical in terms of what is your product or your application's tone or voice that you're going to communicate to your audience, that is your actual users. So there's a lot of processes that is required in terms of involving all the stakeholders who can actually contribute to this process. But often times, probably the designers are involved in this, and we don't sometimes involve the users or the people who know the users directly. So we need to actually bring back our focus in creating content that's very to the point, crisp, clear, and communicates to the user for them to take the action for that particular goal, which could be, a login or even something as simple as ordering food. How can we actually educate our user and keep it clear to them so that they can find the information that is needed in the screens and quickly complete their task at hand? So how do we connect what our user needs, their goals, and our user persona of that particular user with the brand persona, that is the product or the application's voice, and make sure that all functionality is met. The users are able to connect with the application and complete their tasks. So often we talk about beautiful screens and great experience, but here we are here to talk about how words can improve the entire process and can also deter your process if you don't pay attention to it. So why do we really need to have a strategy? Often you may be on an application and maybe it's a fun loving persona that the brand represents, and suddenly you go to another screen and it's a very serious tone. So it almost feels like there's multiple personalities in here. So the user gets confused in terms of, okay, the application seemed very polite at one hand, and then suddenly they've gone all rogue and rude. So this actually leads to a very bad experience for the user. They disconnect from the brand's personality or what the application means to them. So Another thing that happens is often that we actually maintain the copy or the UX text in the designs, but there is no repository that is maintained centrally, which is available to everyone that is involved in the design process, starting from the designer to the developers to the stakeholders, everyone who is involved in the product life cycle. So when there are changes being made, maybe these changes are not updated in the designs, or since there is no repository, this is not really documented. So often this leads to a lot of errors, and sometimes the screens that go out may end up with text that probably has not been reviewed, or does not talk in the brand voice. There's sometimes terminology that's introduced. Often there are suggestions that come in from different people who are involved in the project, and they may be great in terms of understanding the functionality, but they may use terms that are suggested, especially if you're a service company, you interact with the client. They come forward with a lot of suggestions in terms of technical terms that are known to their stakeholders, their employees who are involved in the application, but it's too technical that the end user might not understand what exactly they're supposed to do there in that screen. Sometimes there's a question: who is the keeper of this UX copy? Who decides that this is what's going to go ahead into the market, and who is going to review it and finally give an approval? So often there is a lot of suggestions from different people involved in the whole life cycle. Probably a developer may not understand why a specific copy is there, or maybe there's another screen that is required, and probably a design is not done, or immediately some content placeholder is put in, but maybe someone else has to be involved in that and ensure that the content is correct and meets the goal of that particular screen. And especially this happens with a lot of error messages, right? In our designs, sometimes there may be a few screens or few designs that are required, but we've signed off. So probably the design is not done, and some content is actually added in, but no one is part of that process really. Sometimes the stakeholders, our clients may come with suggestions, but that's entirely different from the tone of voice of most of the content in the other screens. So us, the designer, or whoever is going to speak for the UX content, has to communicate what exactly the brand voice is to the stakeholder, and understand, make sure that you're aligned, and then explain why a particular content is okay or not okay. A lot of times you take permissions from your users, right? So it is something to do with sending marketing material in terms of any kind of communication. So often there are legal requirements in different countries that you need to get confirmation from the user, so that go ahead and send them email notifications, even if it is for an onboarding process or anything of that sort. So you may need to get the legal team of the stakeholder, or your internal legal team involved to understand what is the exact text that pertains to that particular country, and that we shouldn't give the space for users to actually raise an issue that we had not taken their permission, and they're being bombarded with notifications without their permission. So sometimes not having a content strategy also means we miss the opportunity to connect with our user as a brand and create brand loyalty. So to take an example, we have Spotify, which is a fun voice, and they are often known for their really personalized human voice that they use in their communication, and they actually use this for different marketing strategies, that they push this voice, where probably at the end of the year, they actually bring in all the music that you've been listening to, and they create a collection which you can then share on your social media. So a lot of times we miss out on these opportunity to connect with our users, and this does not apply to only mobile applications or end users. It can also very well apply to any application which is web or mobile, that where you have employees as a user, or you have people people who it's an HR application, which is a great place to actually communicate and connect with your users to your company. So also often accessibility is reduced when you use in terms of technical terms, things which are not understood by the users. And there's a lot of chaos when there are edits that are maintained and there is no record of who has edited the copy, which is the final copy that has to go into the actual final product, and who owns the copy. I mean, no one is taking ownership often on who is finally going to make sure that all of the content there is consistent all throughout the application, and wherever needed we are adding in helper text or additional information to the user without overwhelming them, so that they know exactly how to take that particular action. So what are the real core things that are required for a UX content strategy? So firstly, understanding the user persona, then defining the brand voice. Here, I'd like to pause and say there's a clear distinction between a user persona and a brand voice. This is often confused. So user persona, you're talking about your actual users, your user category that you're identifying for the application. You can't create a brand voice saying that you want this particular user category, everyone to like your application in terms of the personality it exudes, the text in which it communicates, but it does not match, what that category of users like. So if you're, trying to talk to children in an application that's for learning or for games or any kind of activity, which requires to engage our young users, you can't have a serious, a strict, ruler voice, right? You can't have that brand persona. So you might have to bring a more fun, young, simple kind of brand voice there to connect to your users. You probably have very elderly kind of users. You need to simplify the text, keep it very short and simple, and maybe there you might need to focus on giving additional content to explain how they can take their action. Maybe it's a user category where they're not very tech savvy, or they don't use social media apps very regularly. Maybe they use a particular kind of user social media, like they're more into WhatsApp and Facebook, but they're not into photo upload apps like Instagram and Snapchat. So often we have to keep it simple. So coming to the next thing, which is something noticed, that there was very little content out there in terms of what is content governance. So this is the core thing that made me choose this topic, and we'll go into it a little more ahead. And collaboration. So I'm a UX designer. Do I just write the UX copy and decide, hey, this is the text that's going into the application, and I'm sure, I feel very confident that this will communicate with the users. No, probably I need to understand is the functionality met. I have to probably have a discussion with a business analyst or with the project manager, and then once we are on the same lines, maybe also then interact with the stakeholders. There's probably someone in marketing at your client side who understands the actual users, and they probably have their brand guidelines set in terms of what is the tone voice that they will have for this particular application, and you have to do a check. Now you've also done some of the content. Do you want to do a quick test with some of the users to see, is this the right brand voice to take ahead before planning out all the designs and all the content for all of the application? So, going a little deeper, understanding the user persona. So, something that I've always practiced is, for me, it is important to understand and clearly define the user category. So, knowing who exactly you're addressing as the user of this particular application. For example, if you're designing a web application, which is going to be used by employees, but who are the employees? What is their age group? Where are they geographically from? What are the other applications they use at work and otherwise? What kind of devices do they use in their daily lives? What kind of people are there? Are they more adventure seeking, or are they more serious? What are their hobbies like? So you take a few user personas in terms of actual research that's done, which is something probably you need to reach out to your stakeholders or go out and understand these users. And based on that, you need to define your user persona. Not just write it down, you need to communicate with your client or your stakeholders and understand that this is the actual persona who we are going to talk to. And then you will be able to talk in the way that your users actually understand. You can't, be a very this is a conversation I was having with another UX designer I'm working with, and we were talking about a bank having a very fun voice can actually feel a little confusing for the users because you're expecting them to be a voice that you can trust. So maybe casual language, if that particular banking brand stands for something which is a little more serious and maybe a very very long standing bank, you're expecting them to be serious. So there you can't have like a fun language and say, hey, you've done it all wrong. You probably need to have communication which is very clear and crisp and communicates the serious tone, but also being human in your voice. Now, defining the brand voice. This is a topic that is very, very, interesting to me. Is There's something called the brand archetype, which I've often talked about to my fellow designers, where you actually define what kind of brand archetype does this particular client fall into. Now, your client has a particular brand persona, but they have two applications. So one application is customer facing and the other application is for the employees. And the third one is for another category of users where the age group is, they're very really young users, school going users. So each of these applications may have an entirely different brand voice from what actually the company stands for. So not just understanding what that company's brand voice is, you have to clearly define what is the application's brand voice. So this helps, then understanding, does this brand voice connect with your user category or the personas you've identified? And then you make sure that wherever there is content, wherever there's UX copy, even if it's a tiny text on a button, it's consistent throughout. So you have someone who probably writes the copy, then you have someone who actually looks at it from the point of the users because they have actual experience and interacted with the users. Does it match what they would understand and what they would look at? And also, does it meet all legal requirements? Does it meet all functional requirements? So there's all of this. And then who's the keeper? So all of this kind of creates a consistency in all of the content you're communicating with the users, and it builds a certain loyalty, right? Like the users often start recognizing the voice. When I'm at work at around 6, and like today I'm in Bangalore and it's raining heavily, and then Zomato sends you a message or Swiggy sends you a message saying, hungry, don't you want to order your padampuri or banana fritters? So I've sometimes it's annoying because I'm trying not to order out, and but other times I really like how they've changed over time from what the application has been when they started off to now, how much more they're doing. And yes, sometimes you need to know how much. Also, it can be annoying when there was a kind of notification that came up where it looked like a friend request. So they literally had written the content, even the font style and everything. It looked like a friend request, and you just click it and you understand. So yeah, know where to stop. So that's also equally important. Content governance. So setting up a system for documenting the content, and any edits, any changes that are made. Where is it documented? What was the earlier UX copy you had? What is the later version? Which is the latest version that has to be considered? Has this been approved? Where is this being stored? Is it on Notion? Do you have it on Confluence? Do you only have it on the designs? Do you even want to have it on an Excel sheet where you define the name of the content? And this content does not only mean UX copy. Maybe this is also a repository which includes the images. So ensuring that the images or the illustration or the visual design communicates the same brand voice that your UX copy has. And then that the developers also need to know that this is the final copy that has to go into the designs. So making sure that everyone is on the same page to avoid changes, mistakes, and you don't want to be presenting the application to your stakeholders or them to their actual users and see that there is an error. Maybe it's a spelling mistake or grammatical error, or there's a voice that looks quite upfront and blunt rather than a soft polite voice that was in there. So how do we collaborate? So there's a lot of process that is required, maybe more conversations. All of us who are part of this process, we need to have in terms of the designers and the developers. Where is the actual content, which the final content? So who does the review process? Is it consistently happening? As the product managers, or probably as a PMO of the design team, or a particular lead, how are you guiding your designers in terms of the review process and taking feedback on the UX content? And maybe you start off with very low fidelity wireframes, right? Probably you just draw on a piece of paper, and then you start off, and then the first low fidelity wireframe just has blocks that represent content. So you just, because you're starting out, you need to understand, is this the design direction I'm going to take? From there, when can you start incorporating UX content? So often, maybe some people overlook the importance of UX copy and they have it in the end once the designs. But understand, every visual image should be consistent with the content. So this process has to start off much earlier, and defining the brand voice is very important, because that brand voice goes also in terms of the design style, the design voice, as well as the UX content voice. Making sure that this repository that we are maintaining is being maintained carefully, and there are actually reviews done. Who does the review? Documenting the review process, and this is approved text. Maybe there are times where probably I'm presenting some design, and there is a conversation on whether the text needs to be changed, but making sure we come back and this conversation is followed up on and the actual content is finalized. So what is our guideline for the UX strategy that we're going to have? Being very concise. Okay, when you are trying to be helpful to your users, it doesn't mean you're going to put in entire paragraph for one particular action on a mobile screen. Okay, so the thing is, I've heard one of my friends who was a UX writer in a particular cab hailing agency, and the designers would come up to them and say, this is the word limit you have, this is what you need to do. So we need UX copy for that. So you have to literally, there would be a conversation where, can I have few more letters because it's too short? But then, that's where, the designer, or they come to an agreement and they decide, no, this is how short it's going to be. And keeping it to the point so that, it's simple language, so that your users are not overwhelmed. I understand that there are a lot of countries which are English speaking, and there are a lot of countries who have their local languages. So understand your users. If you're using regional languages within your UX copy, but it's written in English, making sure that it really communicates well, and it's not confusing because you have all kind of users. Keeping it consistent should be our mantra. It should be like our rule that we wake up with, and making sure that everywhere the voice is consistent all across. And often there are tasks, you're trying to order food. And I've recently been having some not so great experiences where I've ordered food and I've made the payment, but still my cart is open and it looks like I've not made the completed the order for the food. And then I have to go and check. So it actually takes me all, I have to go and check my history of all my orders. And then so guiding the user, like immediately I get the notification that my order has been placed, yes, but then it's not consistent with what I see because there's an open cart there where transaction has not been completed. But then once I click on the final order from my list history of orders, then I'm able to also, it's something that my daughter enjoys, is actually looking at how soon the delivery is going to come. And I like how some of the food ordering applications being fun about in terms of the text, also using that time to push other ways, like if you take Swiggy, why I'm often using, one is this is a application that all of us are used to, or many of us are used to. And being in Bangalore, I think the Instamart is something that is very, very useful to, maybe you've forgotten to buy milk, or, you just have one thing that you want to buy. You can quickly, this thing, there's a birthday party that you need to go to, and you need to buy something. You have a mall on Swiggy. So all of these, I've noticed that their product descriptions are very, very clear. And I think now in terms of food, right, that you order, which is packaged food, uh, there are images which is a real close, much more zoomed out, very clear image of the ingredients. So that probably is a legal requirement, like I've not seen this before. So having that part of the content and clearly communicating in terms of what is the quantity that you can expect, what is the weight of the fruits, that all of this, being contextual and giving information to users is very important. Be human. So I don't know how early all of you have been on applications. Well, I grew up a time where we didn't use computers. And when it first came, the interface, the language, all of it was very, very, um, let's say, not friendly. So it was often overwhelming. And the language, there was no tone, there was no brand voice that was followed in most of the application. I think the people who brought some fun or some humane voice to it is mostly the social media apps that were popping up back then. So how can you communicate to your users like it's a person talking to you? And I'm sure you used ChatGPT, and you're used to the communication, the way that AI speaks to you. So try and observe in these applications that you use on a daily basis, in terms of how they are communicating to the users. Just a moment. I think I'm running out of charge. Okay, great. Okay, so that was the Mac communicating that, but very clear, low battery. They don't, and they have an explanation, but I don't even need to read that explanation. So yeah, and bringing when you bring a human voice, right? It's about um, how a mother would talk to a child. Probably that's not the voice you want for your application, but have you noticed a mother's voice being soft and being approachable? Or have you noticed teachers who teach younger kids, the way they speak is very different from when you're off to college, right? So bringing that voice, which is kind and which is honest and trustworthy, and communicating with your users. So we're going to try something right now because I know I've been talking for a bit and I'm sure it's pretty, hectic right now. I'd like all of you. I'm looking at the chat, so I'm going to give you a scenario, and you probably um, try the way you can. There's no right or wrong answers here. So we're going to design an onboarding flow for a mobile application design. Don't worry, we're not going to do designs. We're just going to draft some UX copy. So I'd like all of you to try out on the chat. I'm sure there's a lot of people here. I'm just looking. We have 33 people. Okay, so I definitely expect some answers here. So draft a welcome message. Um, so draft a welcome message. So this is a user for a mobile banking app. So what are the things that we're going to consider? So what is the brand voice of the banking app? What are the user's emotions? Right? I'm coming here to transfer some money, or I'm coming here to check my balance, or I'm coming here to maybe even start a fixed deposit. What is the clarity we can bring? What is the helpfulness? So here, as a user, I'm going to join or onboard myself into a mobile banking app. So can you send me some text on the chat on what is a short, concise welcome message for the users? Okay, welcome to ABC Bank. Yeah, okay, very simple, concise, communicates. There's no extra. Okay, and we're thrilled to have you on board. This looks like the next message that's going to support your financial journey starts here, and our app is designed to make managing your money simple, secure, and enjoyable. Yeah, I think both are good. I just feel the second text often as a user, I have a tendency to overlook this, but yeah, but if you notice, all of us use application, we scan for words. So words like, money, simple, secure, enjoyable. So how can the design enhance these words? Okay, so you're getting some user, you're going to join a mobile app. If you can't write or come up with content, okay, I have the next thing that I was going to ask, a tooltip for secure login. Oops, your password is too short. For your security, please use at least X characters, including uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters. Okay. Yeah. So I think this was a conversation I was having with another friend the other day was, do you want to have a little casual, tone, or do you want to have a serious tone? So I've noticed there are some young banking applications, and I feel like this is perfect for that tooltip for secure login. But sometimes some of the serious applications, I think they tend to use a different. So you might also want to look at you're writing for an application. What are your competitors for that application writing? What is the tone of voice they're using, and for whom is it working out? So maybe you want to do some research on the UX brand voice and content that your competitors are doing. Now error message for a short password. Okay, a tooltip for secure login. So either one you can try out. Okay, so I'm going to put in something which is not already there. The user is, about to log in. So you need a confirmation. The user wishes to log out. The user is trying to log out, and you need to get a confirmation. So what is that confirmation message going to be? Okay, yeah. Thanks, Nikhil. Welcome to ABC Bank. Okay, secure banking at your fingertips. So can you try also the users trying to log out? So what is log out confirmation that we want to, communicate with the user? Are you sure you want to log out? Yeah, very simple. Your session will end and you'll need to log in again to access your account. Great, perfect. Quite clearly you are logged out. Okay, that's also nice. That's very short. Okay. Uh, Okay, so let's move on. So what is content governance? Actually, I tried reading up a lot about this, and this is particularly why I wanted to talk. Okay, before we do that, I have some answers. Thank you for banking with us. Sorry to see you leaving, doubling your money in 6 months. Open an account. That's definitely a trading, definitely something that can be used for a trading application. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, I hope we're going to have one more activity at the end. I hope to see much more people interact. Yeah. So you have content governance. So what exactly it is? You need to assign roles. Okay. So you need to establish who owns the content. So who's going to create the content? Who's going to review it? When edits are made, who is responsible for the edit to the content, and who is going to review that? So probably, the design process is done earlier, and maybe there's a sign off. But once there is a need to change it, who is going to, again work on that content? Who are the owners, like who has the final say, and who are the editors or reviewers and the stakeholders? I keep saying stakeholders because often we forget to take actual feedback on the actual UX copy or the content. So doing some kind of A/B testing where you have a screen with one tone of voice for the brand, and then you have another screen which has an entirely different, and you probably show it to I would say 10 users. I definitely feel any kind of testing, 7 to 10 users on a minimum, and infinite or 30 or more to get much more good, reliable data on it. Take feedback. Do not lead the conversation when you take this feedback from the two screens. So you show option A and option B, and take feedback. Let them talk, write down the words they use in terms of what they understand when they see these screens, and observe their expressions. If you're actually sitting with the users, it's easy, but if you're doing this testing on a video call, make sure you can record it and go back and observe how their voice is when they read out. Ask them to read out every text that asks the user to take action, and look at how they react. Are they able to understand them? Create and maintain a content repository. So having a centralized resource for all UX copy, ensuring that it is accessible to everyone across the product life cycle, and everyone who's involved in the future, as well as the stakeholders. There is somewhere where you can go. You suddenly decide that this is out in the market and this brand voice is not working out for you. You need to change all of it. Are you going to sit and change all of the designs? No, you're just probably trying to work out UX copy that is more, that speaks better, is more human. So you probably can go and make those changes in the repository and make sure that you have a clear version control. Every version, every edit that is made, it is documented clearly. What is the content workflow? So in terms of from writing the copy to review to finally it going, being published, what is the process? Who is involved at each stage of it? And for each screen, is it going to be there, or is it going to be there only for the first 10 screens? And maybe the process is a little more, simpler in the further screens, but you make sure that it is consistent with the first 10 screens that have been gone through a very, very rigorous process of review, and drafting it, approving it, implementing it to the edits during the maintenance, and having content audits. I've always been a fan of UX audits. We have heuristic evaluation. You have all kind of usability testing. But have you had audit for your content? Taking feedback, like I said, you do A/B testing for quick feedback, but having it done once it's out in the market, and understanding like this is a login screen. How much time does it take the user to understand how to log in and onboard themselves? Once they've done that, how much time does it take them to create their profile on this particular application? And schedule your other people, the marketing team, or the actual speakers of the users. You have the other stakeholders from different departments, and making sure there's a review process. So before I go into the next thing, I wanted to talk about different tools. Like you have you have Slack, you have Notion, you have Confluence. So researching a little bit on what is the ideal repository or the tool that you're going to use to maintain all of your content. So that's something that I think wider conversation that we can have. So you have Swiggy, which is a clear, playful. They have content that guides the user and addresses all of the pain points, arriving in 22 minutes. This is great. I have actually tried putting a timer. They often keep the 20 minutes, as it is. And even though when the time changes, they still keep it, and they don't change. So you're waiting for, at 22 minutes for a couple of minutes, and then when there's a delay, but they have a range of time. But I feel like it's good communication. It changes to your order has been picked up, and then your delivery person has arrived at the location. All of these content I feel is very reassuring for the users. Airbnb is great designs, but also their content in terms of like, I'm sure the image is very small. You have stays and you have experiences. So I like even naming those labels. I think, having conversational warm messaging that brings that feeling of community. Airbnb is definitely users would love exploring not the usual places, something little offbeat or something which a lot of people be together in one property rather than in different smaller rooms in a hotel. Then you have Spotify, like I mentioned earlier, like you have personalization, and they engage the user in every communication that they have. You have Slack. So something's gone already, and Slack is in loading. Sorry, we can't be more specific. This is one of those cases we don't know what's gone wrong. So they're being very honest. Okay, what they don't know the reason, and they're giving also suggestions on what to do to the user. Restart of Slack may help you, and you can always contact us. So you also have a link there, and you have the option to reload it. Okay, and you have an icon that clearly communicates that this is information. And so they have a very human and direct way, but I don't know about Gone Ori. I think it's not very. Mm, Maybe you can simplify some of the words, but otherwise, still think Slack is a great tool for which you can go to understand, a great example of UX copy. So what do we have to keep in mind? So content is as important as design, and that's why we're having this conversation today. So you start having the UX copy at a very early stage of the design process. Define your brand voice to keep it consistent. Your users are able to recognize you all throughout. They shouldn't be on a screen and be like, hey, is this a different brand or a person? Collaborating across the team with different kind of stakeholders who know the users and who know the functionality, who know the business objectives. Testing and refining your content continually. Have an early testing and also a testing later. I'm just sharing in some references, and some tools, Notion, Excel, you have Confluence. And I feel Nielsen, the NN group, they have some great content on UX copy, even though there's a lot of other articles out there, but I feel they're very reliable. And of course, we have our IxDF courses, and we have articles also published. I just feel that NN Group has gone a little more deeper into all of it. So if you can take a look, some of these books, disclaimer here, I've not read these books, but yeah, I did search about these books and did try and read. I think the first book is something they're saying it's a little more high level. It's not for someone who wants to go and deep. Okay, so another exercise. So here, Parmesan, I'd like to request everyone to be able to unmute themselves, if that's okay. Okay, so you're designing, something for a food delivery app, and the goal is to create copy for, enhancing the user experience so that, the whole flow of the users throughout the application is very clear. So what you need to write is push notification. So notify the user that their food is being prepared. You're free to unmute yourself. You don't have to write. Okay, on Slack, the CTA label. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to go back. Yeah, so it is restart. Yeah, restart. I think here they're just saying you don't have to restart your system, or I don't know why reload. That's something for us to think about. That's probably, yeah, reload is, it's not a very common word for a CTA, call to action button. Yeah, I think this restart can communicate very clearly. Okay, so coming back, we're going to write copy for a food delivery app. So what is, can someone, come unmute and talk to me? I can probably help you in terms of, let's talk about what is our brand voice.
Yeah, please feel free to unmute yourself.
I'm not trying to scare anyone, but if someone can unmute, I'd like to ask a few questions, and if someone can volunteer. I have very hesitant, quiet audience today.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay, hello. Yeah,
Please
hi.
share.
Yeah, hi, Chris. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, you're designing for a food delivery app. So what is the voice that you need to talk to your users? Should it be
Right.
friendly, casual, or formal, serious?
Yeah, serious, fearless. Is it like addressing to the teenagers or mature audience, or really depends on.
Yeah. So who are your users? Okay, let's assume, okay, here. So some of our users are going to be people who have the buying power. So they've started working. So they have buying power, but they also hate cooking. Okay. And they're probably staying with friends, or probably they're getting together with friends on a night. A lot of them, ordering a large order. So you have younger users with buying power. I think, after some point you get a little health conscious and probably you order less, or yes.
True.
What is the tone of voice that you would like for your application to have?
Yeah, so something less preachy, because people use this kind of platform. They're looking for convenience. We don't want to preach them. To be very conscious. We
Okay.
can get very relaxed.
Okay. So casual, yeah.
I,
So casual and friendly.
yeah,
Yeah. So how do you want your user to feel during each interaction, like every communication?
to be
That
honest,
you want them to feel.
less about
Yeah.
upset, more about what I want.
Okay. And so you need to send a push notification to notify the user that the food is being prepared. So can you come up with something based on the voice that we've decided?
No,
So
I don't have an
yeah.
answer,
So
but push notification is one thing. If it is a live notification, that's another thing. Again, I understand where we are going, but I don't have an answer right now.
okay, but thanks for identifying the brand voice and how you want your users. So I'd like to open this up to anyone else who'd like to unmute and probably come up with some push notification text.
Vandana, I have one
Yeah.
question here. So if
Yeah.
since it's a food delivery application, so most of the time you will order food when you're hungry, right?
Yes.
I would suggest the application should be very transparent and honest. Like if my food will arrive, they are promising to arrive at 10 minutes time, I should get the food at 10 minutes because I'm hungry. So the transparency part, that will create an impact. So the application should be very honest, and that you mentioned about that point, right? That technology aspect as well, like the function allocation. They need to reach out to different, like the kitchen where your food is preparing, and the time it will take to reach the delivery boy, and the delivery boy, how much time it take to reach my home. The transparency should be there, and all these technological aspect, like instead of just you're saying like, so like whether like you're hungry and the application is sharing some interesting push notification, unless I get my food, I may not be happy, right?
Yeah, I've been quite a frustrated user, to be honest, especially the time that I love ordering food is on a Friday night after a long work week. And I'm looking forward to, probably eating some unhealthy food. And often what they do is they actually communicate a time. And I've actually, like I said before, I've actually tried the timer. When it takes too much time, only when it takes too much time, and I've noticed that they are not being transparent about the time. And but I feel reassured when I see that, okay, now it's coming, it will reach soon. And something that I've noticed is they say that your delivery partner has reached, but actually they're still like 100, 200 meters away. So for a second, I'm like out, already opened the door because I'm really hungry, but they haven't reached. And I have probably they're calling in to ask for, directions.
Looks
So,
like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Listening to this conversation, I kind of it reminds me the body cam stuff in US police. They have this body cam, and when they're addressing a crime, they are supposed to turn on the body cam and record everything. I'm just thinking, what if the delivery partner have a body cam and you kind of tap into that feed and you can actually see what they are saying? I mean, total ridiculous idea, but why not? Just thinking.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
like
I
today,
have
in
one example
yeah.
here. Like, so it's more of like, so there was one instance where I ordered some food and I made the payment. And the app showed your what you call the delivery will reach in 25 minutes. And I am waiting. And after 15 minutes, I got a call from the restaurant and saying that their food is not there. It's out of stock. Okay, that restaurant guy says no food, and I don't know what to do. But still, my application, like my order is still active. The application still says in 25 minutes I will get the food.
Yeah,
So
I think I want to add that. Yeah.
mm. So these are the
So,
scenarios where we need to be very, very transparent. That technology aspect, no, that communication, if that breaks, the application says your food will come, and the restaurant calls me and say you won't get the food, and that guy is asking me to cancel my order again.
so
So
I think something recently happened. We wanted to order biryani only for my daughter, and that's why we chose a particular restaurant. But what happened is they didn't have biryani. And so we had this like order of 3 items. And if they're not going to have biryani, I don't want to order. But recently, what I noticed is Swiggy actually told me which item is missing instead of a call. Earlier, I used to get calls and they have a clear list. And then they gave me options whether I want to cancel the order or, I want to continue. So I think this is a recent update that I noticed just last few weeks. So I feel like, you're already expecting the food and then you get this. But I felt like at least they were communicating which food was not there. Because if it's dish number one, I've ordered chicken fry, I'm okay if that's not there. But the most important thing, if the biryani is not there, then I might as well not order from that restaurant. So yeah. So
so
that's,
if
I think
if
a
the
lot of
biryani
changes.
is not there, Vandana, I have another point here. If the biryani is not there, why that is listed in the menu?
Yeah, so I think there is something in terms of, they've accepted the order. It shouldn't be available. So it's, I think the
Correct.
restaurants, yeah, they're
Correct.
supposed
That
to
is what I'm
update.
saying.
Yeah.
It's more about that emotional aspect. So when you're hungry, your emotions are very high. It's a completely different story. Unless the application, like when you're hungry, like see your one of your example, when it is raining and you are sitting at home, and if something comes, some nice notification comes, like, would you like to have some parampuri? That's a different experience. Like you don't need parampuri, but they are like prompting you to have some parampuri, right? The other scenario is completely different.
Yeah, so I think I have been so there's something I've experienced. I know this is not copy related, but I've ordered 5 items on Instamart. So it's a grocery order, right? But the you need to meet a minimum order so that I can get the delivery charges cancelled. So I have to order for around some 200 and something or 300 rupees, but I only want one item, okay, which is important. Now my mindset is like, how can I get the that money cancelled? So I order everything, and then I come to know this particular thing is not there. when the order comes, there is no communication. I open the packet and I come to know that one thing that I really wanted is not there. So then they have a chat system, but often I feel it's still not efficient. Um, so they're not even being transparent.
So I like exploring content.
Okay. So what kind of applications have you worked on where you had to research a bit and figure out a voice? Is there any kind of industry, like maybe it's a health app, or where you
Yeah,
had fun figuring out the content?
so I've worked on a bunch of applications where the users were quite different from each other. Like I've worked on a fitness app where the users are going to be people that want like a fitness expert, right? So over there also the text had to be subtle yet promptive, like how Uber is. Like, are you looking for a long drive or something like that? But for fitness, you're more like, have you burnt your required calories today or something like that, very subtle yet inviting and promptive text. So I've worked on a fitness app. I've worked on a bunch of business applications where there is literally the content is only just to explain what they're seeing on the screen, and there's no extra like what do you call it, toppings and stuff. There's no extra information about hey, welcome and all that is not there. Just that you will find this in this place and stuff like that. So very straightforward and cut short, like up to the point. So yeah, like that. That's been my experiences.
So do you try and define the brand voice? Do you talk to your clients and or your stakeholders, and does that conversation often happen, or is it
Yeah,
something?
yes, that happens when we're defining the user personas, like who's going to be using our applications and what age range they might be, right? So I think when once you establish that, you sort of have a general idea of what the tone of voice should sort of be. Like everything has to be friendly, but like how much extra icing to add or how much to like keep it straightforward and stuff like that. So all those conversations are there. Also, I've worked with a lot of content writers in the past who've been really helpful in terms of just defining all the body copies and titles and stuff that go on the website or the application. So a lot of conversations with them also sort of, I mean, I've also had sessions where I've brainstormed with them and derived or arrived at a conclusion where we thought this was apt, not their copy, not mine, but somewhere in the middle. So yeah, I've had experiences like that.
Okay, so do you agree that it's great to collaborate with other designers when it comes to the content, or anyone who loves writing copy? So do you think that has to be a part of your your designing process?
Well, I think so, yes, but I also think that we should not keep it that flexible because different, just like design, even content is very subjective, right? Different people can interpret it differently. If different people might like hearing different stuff. So I would say keep it a little flexible, get to the main message or how we want to, deliver the main message. Do we want it to be subtle and invitive, or do we want it to be forceful and get them to do an action really quick? So once you have that main idea, then you just come up with a bunch of options. And like you said, you can do a bunch of A/B testings to see what the stakeholders like, because ultimately it's their decision to go with the whole thing. And then once you have data from all the A/B testing, you can then sort of convince the stakeholders as well with the data-driven results that you have found from all of the testing that you did, is what I would say.
Okay, so I think coming Ajit to this particular exercise you were doing, right? So if it's an error message, for a food delivering app, and the person is really hungry, how do you tell them that their payment was unsuccessful, and give them information? So you're treading on very, very
Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to sort of be apologetic, right? You can't just straight up tell them, hey, payment unsuccessful, so do what you have to do. Like, you can't do it that way. You have to sort of be like, here you can use words like, oops, we're really sorry, but something wasn't right. We don't know what went wrong. Like, if you really don't know what went wrong. So over there, like, it's sort of like you ease the user in to the disappointing message, because ultimately if it's disappointing, then it's disappointing. Like even in terms of when you guys were talking about um, from the time the food has been ordered to the time the food reaches home, Swiggy almost always displays the wrong amount of time it requires. Like they keep it stuck at 25 minutes for like 15 minutes 15 minutes later you open the app, it's still at 25 minutes. So that's kind of wrong to do. But like Swiggy also has a lot of issues where they don't know if the delivery guy is using like a Yulu or an electric bike, if it's a slow vehicle, a fast vehicle, if he's on foot. Like they have a lot of ambiguities there, which I think they should fix. But because they don't have concisive data on how much time this will take, they sort of trying to just like leave the user hanging with some sort of solace is the best that they can do. So I think even there you need some sort of a content expert who can relay the news, even that sad news, in a good way, so that it's digestible and not like, so that users don't backlash all of a sudden, I would say.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
something I've observed. Yeah, sorry, someone. Yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
add
Yeah,
one
yeah,
point here?
yeah.
So I don't remember which application, whether it's Swiggy or Zomato, but what happens is like when your payment is not successful, what they will show a message like so they will ask you like whether you want to place that order and you can make the payment later. So that message gives a like kind of an assurance like, okay, my order is placed at the restaurant and I will get some more time to make the payment or choose a different payment method. Instead of this, just simply stop your process at that point of time and ask you to make the payment to jump to the next step. They will like seamlessly that flow. Like end of the day, you need food, right? They seamlessly transition your that order to the next step and they will ask you to make the payment later. I don't know which app, but one of these application does that. Very seamless experience.
Yeah, I think that's great. I also had a bad experience where the order was placed. So I wanted to pay with a particular card because I have a food card. And if that was not the thing, then I had to probably make another payment through another method, which also would decide whether I want to make the purchase or not. And they actually went ahead and confirmed. And it was not clear in terms of communication where, has it been placed? Was it really successful? They said something, but it was very brief. So often these applications, I think, especially where people are just waiting for the particular order service, and we've been talking about food a lot. It's 4 p.m. and it's raining. I'm sure all of us are hungry as well for some coffee. But I've noticed that if the data is not up to date, like you said, the technical aspect of it, the information they're showing is not up to date. So the time or whether the order was placed, sometimes the order is placed but it's showing as pending and things are waiting in your cart, so they actually tell me that things are waiting. So even the technical aspect of it to match the user's expectation, I think is very important. Yeah, so anything else that anyone wants to add about Parameshwaran? You've been, thank you for hosting, but I'd love, yeah, hi Praveen, yeah, go ahead.
Just wanted to add one thing in Zomato, Swiggy, I don't remember, but I've seen like once we order and the order has been placed, it says that sit back and relax. That's a so kind of welcoming message because I've done with those things. I've done with the booking, and you just need to sit and I'll get the food back. That is one thing which I felt like okay, it's very on time kind of message. Also, I just wanted to say some more thing. One more thing. It's not about the app. It's about website. Okay, this is my experience while working in one of the companies where we have to design a website for that company does services to other customers. Okay, so one of the service was about blockchain services. So in their website, they have written everything about blockchain. It's like an encyclopedia PDF for blockchain. This is what blockchain does and these are the features of blockchain and everything, but they are not getting business. So what we have said is like, okay, we suggested something like instead of telling what is blockchain, which is available everywhere, you can Google it and understand, right? So tell them that, okay, by doing the service, the blockchain related service from our company, you'll get these kind of benefits. Okay, the way, because the users who are going to watch this, we need to think in their perspective. So they should think, okay, why should I go with these people to do my blockchain service? I can go to anyone else. And they're just talking about blockchain, what is blockchain and all, which I know. I'm already aware of that thing. I don't want that, but I just want to understand what I'll get when I do blockchain service with you guys. So that kind of message we suggested and it kind of worked. So this is again communication on the right, placing things on the right path. Just sort of saying this.
I think it's
Vandana,
educating.
I have one question related to what
Yeah.
Praveen mentioned. So is it like the content strategy aspect or defining the right content for a website or a web application, is it more of a designer's job, the UX designer's job, or is it more of marketing team's job? Where exactly that what do you call, or is it something a collaborative job? I don't know. So which like how would we deal with that strategy aspect? Who will take the ownership basically? Like,
Can I take a dig at that question?
Yeah,
Yep.
go ahead, Aditya.
Okay, so in my previous experiences, the marketing team is the one that decides the content for the website, the content for the email templates, the content for the social media templates and all that stuff. So they generally are the ones setting the brand tone of voice evenly everywhere, because they are the ones that has sort of access to all platforms, and they're the ones managing all platforms. But like you said, I think it can be a collaborative job in terms of like the application that you're building. Like if it's a website, a user might not stay in the website for longer than 7 minutes, right? But if it's an application, they have to use it for a while. Like Swiggy for a while, for instance, we have to go through various different flows depending on if you want Genie, Instamart, or to order food, right? So you'll be there for a while. Sometimes I spend like 30 minutes on Swiggy just scrolling because I can't decide what I want to eat, right? So in such a scenario, I think a lot of tests need to be done, but it is a collaborative effort in such scenarios. But apart from that, marketing team slash they have content writers also included in the team. I think that team handles the brand positioning in terms of, is it a premium brand? Is it like a friendly brand? Is it like really is it open to common people everywhere, or is it like only to rich people, elite stuff like that? So I think it's a marketing thing. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think adding to that, Praveen and Jensen, both of what you said is like Praveen spoke about an example where we are trying to sell a service. So for that, first we need to educate our user. So there's a lot of content. So probably a designer is great at understanding the users, but maybe creating that very large content which is specific to that particular industry, maybe they're not equipped, but they can work with someone who is a very experienced in writing that content. Could be if part of the marketing copywriter, it could be a UX writer which works in the design team. But what I've noticed is a lot of teams don't have an assigned UX writer. So the reason why I decided to talk about this is
Yeah.
we need to bring that capability. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, Vandana. What I feel, no, I've seen like these content strategists or content experts nowadays. I mean, in my experience, they think that writing content in good English or good grammar or vocabulary is the best thing, but it is not the best thing actually. Make it as simple as possible and as contextual as possible. That is the best UX writing. So to add to add to the example which I said about the service, the blockchain service, maybe you can see that, okay, like buy one packet of Lay's and you get you get a double packet of something, like as an offer, right? So imagine that, okay, they're trying to sell a product, two products at the price of one. So how do they do that? They're not saying that this offer is available or something like that, but they'll tell in terms of the user, okay, you buy one, you get two free. So it's all about user. Buy one t-shirt, you get five free. So that means actually they are thinking like how the user should think and get attracted. So I feel that is the base way of doing this UX writing. They need to think like how the user is going to get benefited. That's what I feel.
I think it should be someone who is good at writing concise, crisp content, but also has some level of knowledge in terms of the user psychology, and
Exactly.
understand the brand as well. So even though we've been talking about marketing folks being part of the process, they also need to have that very unique expertise. But what you communicate in terms of a big hoarding or in a magazine or in a blog is probably not the expertise you need for that little bit of text that works well with the user. So I think if we don't have a UX writer expertise as a part of a larger team which is involved, design, maybe we are designing multiple applications. I think we need to educate ourselves and probably collaborate as designers to enable that learning and understand and build our knowledge. Or we need to bring someone who has that expertise in this particular thing. So yeah, Jensen, you want to add to that?
No. Thanks, Vandana, and thank and Anjit and Praveen for the explanations and make sense. And thank you so much, Vandana. The session was very, very useful. Some all the discussions, people who are joined, thought-provoking discussions and insights. And happy to see IxDF session live after some time. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. And over to you, Parameshwaran. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. So I know this topic is interesting and it's very unfortunate it's time to wrap up. So for taking time for us and bringing us this session. I would like to thank each and everyone who took their valuable time from a busy day to attend this webinar. A special thanks to all the participants who actively participated in the Q&A session, especially Jinsen, Chris, Ajit, Praveen. Thank you to all the volunteers of IxDF team who work behind the scenes to make this event happen. Please write to us and let us know how you find this session. We are available on the social media like Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Insta, and Clubhouse. You can also write to us ixdfkerala@hotmail.com. We can have an IXDF Kerala community in this interactive design foundation website. Hope to see you on the next session as we come to you with another webinar. Until that, stay safe, stay tuned. Thank you.